Hey, I just posted my blog post on Twitter a few days ago where I'm encouraging programmers to design, object-oriented programmers, to design more classes and to make the code more understandable by making more classes. And I got a quite sarcastic comment on that article on Twitter saying that how about we start paying programmers for classes they make. So the more classes they have, the more classes they create, the more we pay them. And I answered that comment like, yeah, it's a good idea. Like, why not? Because I really think it's a good idea to pay programmers more for the amount of code they write, for the amount of classes they create. And it seems logical to me. But I can explain, I can understand why and where the sarcasm is coming from. So people think that if we pay programmers for the amount of code they write, for the amount of classes they make, it automatically means that the whole code base will be ruined in just a few days because programmers will just go crazy and they will create so many classes just to get more money, and they will just ruin everything just because they will be driven by this financial reward and financial interest, and that's why everything will be trashed. This is true if programmers have nothing besides this financial motivation. So every time I'm telling people that we need to motivate programmers, we can motivate programmers by the amount of something they produce, by the amount of, for example, bugs they find, or by the amount of code they create, by the amount of classes they write. People who listen to this, for some reason, they assume that the project doesn't have any quality control at all. So it's like a complete empty space where people write whatever they want, and then we come in and say, hey guys, starting tomorrow we're gonna pay you $1 for each line of code, and they immediately go crazy. So there is no unit testing there, no code review, there is no architectural review, no control whatsoever, and then of course they immediately go crazy. But what kind of project is that doesn't have any quality control? Why you assume every time I talk to you, I'm addressing right now my speech to people who sarcastically understand that and comment on that, smile and laughing on that. Why you assume that a project doesn't have any quality control? Are your projects like that? I don't think so. And if this is the case for you, then I'm sorry to hear that. Because in my experience, projects, they do have quality control. They cannot allow programmers, they won't allow programmers to contribute, any amount of classes just because they want so. There will be code review, there will be people checking their code, there will be people rejecting their classes. So on one side, we're gonna pay programmers for each class they create, like $1 for a class, for example. But on the other hand, there will be reviewers. There will be people checking their quality, so it will be not possible to abuse the system immediately and to produce like 100 classes for no reason, because your code will be rejected. So every time we're talking about financial rewards for some tangible results of programmers, we have to understand that together with that, we have to have very strict quality control. So financial motivation by result is not going to work at all unless you have a system for controlling that result. If you pay for pull requests, then they have to be rejected if the quality is low. If you pay for bugs they find, then you have to reject the bugs which are not sufficient enough and which are not good enough for your project. If you pay for each diagram they create, for example, for each class they write, then you have to have some quality control system to reject bad results, to reject wrong diagrams, to reject wrong classes, and so on and so forth. In this case, everything will work. But if you don't have this second part of the equation, then of course everything will fall apart. And my question to you again, how come you don't have this part? How come you think about, when we talk about project, how come you assume that there is no second part, that there is no quality control? It just sounds weird to me, it looks weird. And I see it very often at conferences, on Twitter, and everywhere. People just laugh at that and say, yeah, sure, we're gonna start paying for lines of code and blah, blah, blah. Everything will go to trash. It will not go to trash if your project is managed right. So think about this. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.